Hey, I'm Marty Schupak. Welcome to Schupak Sports. Please subscribe. We have over 30,000 video clips coming in all sports, not just baseball or softball. Listen, today we are going to do a T-ball template number 16. We've done 15 of them before. Go over a few drills. Today we're going to go over some throwing drills. If you have kids T-ball age, or you're thinking about coaching T-ball, or you're a Little League commissioner, you're going to love this session. Even if you're not involved in T-ball, if you're involved in coaching and youth sports, stay tuned because I'm going to give out some tips that are going to be long-term coaching tips also. Okay, let's start in right away. I'm going to go over with a number of drills. This first drill is called the wrist flip. And all we're doing is we're putting players on one knee. We're putting a ball. Let me hold it up close. It's kind of an ambitious drill for T-ball, but you could try it. And you could try it with your kids at home too. And it's a tough concept to understand. What we want to do is we want kids to kneel on the knee that they throw. So a righty will kneel on his right knee, a lefty will kneel on his left knee. And we're looking for quality rather than quantity of throws. Now, keep in mind with young kids, 4, 5, 6, even 7, they tend to rush, okay? You have to slow them down in a drill like this, and also you can't spend too much time in a drill like this. It just won't work as far as holding their attention. All right, so you put them on the knee. The grip, at one point I thought it was important. I really don't think it's that important, but if you notice here, this is what you want to try to do. Have them at a right angle, and you're going to have yourself or your assistant set it up as a right angle, because the kids, they don't know what a right angle is. And if it's not at a perfectly exact right angle, it's okay. All right. And you want to try to make sure that the elbow is even or a little below the shoulder. Okay. And if it's not, again, don't worry about it. And the reason being is if you're going to continue to coach youth baseball and even all the way up to 16, 17, or 18 when they're in high school, what usually happens is with a pitcher, when they begin to get tired, okay, you'll notice that the elbow will drop. That's number one. But number two, if their elbow is above their shoulder and they're pitching, that can create problems as far as injuries. So keep an eye on that elbow, but don't be overly strict with that. And what you're going to do is the player holds the ball, okay, and he's going to flick it. And don't rush it. And we want to try to get the player to feel his wrist, okay? And I call it the wrist flexation of flex. And it's important when they begin to get a little older. Now, a lot of these kids that do this drill, if they do it on a Saturday, on Sunday, it won't make a difference. They'll go back to the wrong way of doing it. But it's important, it's so important that you give young kids a chance just to feel the correct way and feel a way to do a particular skill that will help them excel at that skill. So again, we call this the forward wrist flip. You can do it at home. Again, don't spend too much time with it. Okay. The next drill, this is what I did. Kids really young tend to throw, and a lot of times they don't move their feet. Okay. So what I did was, and with my wife's help, I went out and I bought oak tag. If you could see it like this. And I don't have the finished pieces here, but what I did is, if you look, I cut them out or cut out the center, and I used a utility knife. It needs some preparation, this drill, but I cut 4 squares, and it was I made them kind of 18 by 18, I believe, inches. There's no exact size or science to this. And all I did was I tried to set it up. And at the time, it was for my middle son, having him simulate throwing a ball and moving his feet. So if you look, I set up the oak tag where his feet should approximately be landing. Now, if it doesn't land where you have the oak tag set up, it's not a big deal. You want to have the players used to moving their feet. You don't have to use oak tag. You could use small circles, like if they make a small hula hoop. You could be creative. I use the oak tag, and if you do want to do it, you could go to a really good printing store and have it laminated. But remember, try to do this, if you're going to do this, without the baseball. Again, and I say it over and over again, it's important. You always want to separate skills. And when you do separate skills, you want to break it down to the basics. When I say separate skills, if you're practicing throwing, have a bucket of balls, have your son, daughter, whatever, throw the ball into space, and don't throw it back, but then have him pick up the next ball, do the same thing, throw it into space. I don't want the kids at the beginning to focus on 2 skills, throwing, and then if you throw it back, they have to catch it. Eventually, you could combine them, and you could combine them early in the season, but at first, you want to separate skills. Okay. So that I like to have players do it without the ball at first, and then you could do it with the ball. You could adjust it, and don't be shocked if it rips the oak tag or whatever you're using. And you do it, and then you try it with no squares. And the benefit is you're giving the players a sense of about where their feet should end up. Okay? All right. So that is the 4 square step and throw. And I use the oak tag. Now, I want to point out too, in T-ball, okay, you want to make sure, and I call them siblings. Fun and confidence are 2 siblings of T-ball. You have to instill upon your players, because your goal is you want them to come back for the next season. You want to create a lifetime love for baseball and softball. And remember, and I've said it before, 2 of the biggest reasons that kids will leave a sport is, number 1, getting injured, and number 2, being embarrassed amongst their peers. You have to overcome those. You have to give the kids confidence. You have to teach the kids, if they make a mistake, to forget it and to go on to the next drill or to the next activity. It's so important, okay? The best baseball players in the major leagues are the players that could strike out 3 times, and then their 4th time at bat, they come up and they get a clutch hit or a clutch home run. And even the best players in the world make mistakes. I'll give you a quick example. I love old-time baseball. In the 1926 World Series, the St. Louis Cardinals and New York Yankees were tied at 3 games apiece. In Game 7 at Yankee Stadium, the Cardinals were winning 3-2. In the bottom of the 9th, Babe Ruth walked. So there was a player at first base. It was Ruth, and up it was Bob Musial, who's a very good contact hitter. For whatever reason, and I was never able to find out if it was the coach or if Ruth did it on his own. Most people think he did it on his own. He took off for second base and he got thrown out, and that's how they ended the 1926 World Series. So the point is, the best players in the world make mistakes. And if you look at the following year, 1927, Babe Ruth came back and hit 60 homers, and the Yankees, Murderers Row, had one of the best seasons of all times. The best players in the world know how to forget mistakes, go on to the next at bat, go on to the next foul shot, go on to the next golf swing. Okay. We want to give the young kids confidence so they can come back. Remember, kids develop at different stages. We cannot pinpoint two kids from two different households. We can't pinpoint the exact day when they're going to reach their potential. It'll happen differently. Okay. That's what makes this world beautiful. Everyone is different and progresses at different times. All right. Enough with that. The next drill I've done, and I'm showing it again because I think it's important. It's the bench throwing. And this is important. And, another thing I want to point out, and I was talking about development, in the course of a 3, 4, or 5-month T-ball season, if you're coaching or if you're a parent, you're going to see drastic changes. And again, kids develop at different speeds. But in this drill, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have players feel what it's like to have their arm go all the way back. I've coached players and I tell them, bring your arm all the way back, and they swear they are, and they're only bringing it not any further back than their ear. So what I did was, and don't go out and buy a freestanding bench. I don't want you to spend unnecessary money. We would practice and have games at a school, and I knew the custodian, and I got access to a freestanding bench. And then I've used bleachers. And again, all we're doing is having gravity help the player feel their arm go all the way back. You could stay at the foot of the bench and he throws you the ball. Make sure, of course, you want to use a soft covered ball. Now, keep in mind also that young kids, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know. In an athletic family, young kids that have older brothers and sisters will develop faster than other kids that don't have older brothers and sisters. Okay, so here we go. This is the bench throw drill, and it's all about gravity and muscle memory. If they could feel that arm going back once, they'll repeat it. Okay. The next drill, and I will be telling you an advanced tip, and this is a drill at the end of this. All it is a hula hoop throw, and we're utilizing the throw skill, giving players an achievable goal. We're putting 1, 2, 3, or 4 hula hoops against the fence and putting them at a distance where they'll succeed. And they have to throw the ball within the hula hoop. Okay, it's easy to set up, and we're putting players in a position to succeed. Now, this doesn't show it right, but if you do this, and if you do use 3 or 4, you have to spread the kids out a lot. Okay, one thing I find too, and I've said it before, when you're working with young kids as far as throwing, the ball goes wild a lot of times. It's because their head will go wild. You want to try to steady the head if you could. On different throwing drills, if you put out a cone or a target and have them throw and try to aim at that target, you'll see that the head will begin to steady itself. The real young kids, like 3 and 4 years old, if you practice throwing drills, sometimes it's just like you like spinning your wheels if they're not that developed. When they get a year or 2 older, you want to have them focus on a target. They're not going to hit the target, but focusing it will give them a chance to steady the head. All right, this is the last drill, and it's a game actually. If you're going to continue to coach baseball and softball, you don't want to be a hard-ass coach. You want to teach the kids. You want to make them accountable. But I always like to finish a practice on a high note. This is a game that I like to say, oh, I'm sorry, this is a drill. Actually, this is the last drill. It's the line throw drill. We're lining balls up at third base and shortstop all in a row. And this is showing two players at first, but you really want to have a coach at first. On the go command, the player will pick up the ball and throw it to first. Now, this drill in T-ball, you're not going to do this the first week. You're going to incorporate this in the, I guess, the second, third, or fourth week. Okay, on the go command, after the first player picks up the ball and throws it to first, he goes to the end of the next line. Then this player goes, he goes to the end of that line. Okay, keep in mind, you have to emphasize to the players, you don't have to reach first base on a fly. The aim is more important than reaching on the fly. I don't care if it gets there 2, 3, or 4 bounces, but that's the line throw drill. I use this when I coached actually middle school and even high school players. It's a great warm-up drill. Now, this is the drill I was talking about. This is the advanced tip. Is I like to end on a high note. And what I do is I set up, if you have access to a field, freestanding bases between the pitcher's mound and second. And I use this for 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and 10-year-olds are the closest. I would pitch tennis balls, and they swing with a tennis racket, and they hit it right, the ball goes over the fence. I have a bucket of tennis balls right over here. Kids love a chance to hit the ball over the fence. Give it to them. A lot of these kids will never have a chance to hit a home run. This is a very low-skill drill because we're using a tennis racket and the swinging and hitting the tennis ball over the fence. So that's the advanced drill. Now, please subscribe. As I said, we have 30,000 video clips coming. Make sure, no matter what sport you're coaching, you have your parents make sure they update the players' hearing test and eye test. It's so important when they're playing sports. Okay, now as far as products, okay, this week's product is this book, Baseball Coaching. I always, when it comes to my products, tell you parents and coaches, don't go out and spend money you don't have, okay? Go to your reference table at the library and ask for the book. However, this is the only book that I will tell you to buy because you'll always refer to it throughout your coaching career in baseball or softball. And I would say even purchase the ebook. The reason being, towards the back of the book, I have over 60 sample practices, and I've set it up where if you click online on one of the drills, it goes right to the description of it, okay? I did a lot of work, so I recommend you pick up this book. Another book, and this is where the drills you saw came from, is T-ball drills. I have 110 drills in here, and they all have explanations, and they all have a picture. And I recommend leagues to get this book, T-ball coaches and commissioners. I'm sure you won't be sorry. This is a book you could go to your library and try to insist. I self-publish my book, so a lot of libraries will say, we don't purchase self-published book, but get your league president to do something. So that's about all for today, okay? And I will see you and tune next time. Keep checking the Schupak Sports website. We have a lot of drills coming up, as I said. I'll see you at third base.